Hello, welcome. I'm Martine Croxall. US President Donald Trump says that he could take the oil in Iran and seize Kharg Island, the small island off the coast of Iran, home to a major oil terminal that is considered the country's economic lifeline. Speaking to the Financial Times, Mr. Trump said the US could take the island very easily. Well, the president's comments come as a further 3,500 US troops arrived in the Middle East as fears grow that further escalation could expose American forces to Iranian attacks. Speaking to reporters on board Air Force One, Mr. Trump claimed the US-Israel war has already achieved regime change in Iran, while insisting he would still make a deal with Tehran.
I think we'll make a deal with them, pretty sure. Whether it's possible, we won't. But we've had regime change, if you look already, because the one regime was decimated, destroyed, they're all dead. The next regime is mostly dead. And the third regime, we're dealing with different people than anybody's dealt with before. It's a whole different group of people. So I would consider that regime change. And frankly, they've been very reasonable. So I think we've had regime change. I mean, you can't do much better than that.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that President Trump is considering a military operation aimed at extracting 1,000 pounds of uranium from Iran. The paper cites unnamed security officials and says the operation would likely put American forces inside the country for days or longer. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister has ordered the military to move further into southern Lebanon. Benjamin Netanyahu said the expansion of what he called a security buffer zone would neutralise the threat from Hezbollah. Joe Inwood reports.
For a military that the US claims to have destroyed, Iran still seems capable of inflicting damage. In the Negev desert, an industrial park burns, the result of Iranian missile strikes on Israel. There have been reports of dozens of drones and missiles fired across the Gulf. It has also emerged that a valuable US spy plane called an AWACS was destroyed in a strike on an airbase in Saudi Arabia. This war does not feel like it's de-escalating. There are reports in the US that the use of ground troops is being considered. Thousands of Marines are in the region. It's been speculated they may attempt to capture Kharg Island, where most of Iran's oil is exported, something the US president has not dismissed. Last night, Donald Trump told the Financial Times, "To be honest with you, my favourite thing is to take the oil in Iran, but some stupid people back in the US say, why are you doing that? But those are stupid people. Maybe we take Kharg Island," he said, "maybe we don't. We have a lot of options." When asked about the state of Iranian defence on the island, he said, "I don't think they have any defence. We could take it very easily." But that's not an assessment many agree with. Any operation to put US boots on the ground would come with risk, both for the personnel involved and for the escalation of this war.
Aggression and occupation will yield no result other than the humiliating capture, dismemberment and disappearance of the aggressors. American commanders and soldiers will become food for the sharks of the Persian Gulf.
This is now a multi-front war. In Lebanon, Israel has continued its offensive. The IDF released this footage of their operations in the south. Their target is the armed group Hezbollah, allies of Iran. But that seems to include some journalists. Yesterday, the funerals of Ali Shwaib, Fatima Fatouni and her brother Mohammed took place. Israel accused Shwaib, who worked for a channel aligned with Hezbollah, of being an intelligence operative, without providing any evidence. The Lebanese authorities say more than 1,000 civilians have now been killed, with more than 1 million forced from their homes. There are fears some may not be able to return, after Israel's Prime Minister expanded what he calls a security zone, but others will call an occupation.
I said we would change the face of the Middle East, and we did it. In Lebanon, I've instructed the military to expand the existing security strip in order to finally thwart the threat of invasion and to keep missile fire away from our borders.
These were the skies over Tehran last night. Iranian air defences still apparently in action. Iran will know it cannot defeat the US and Israel militarily, but may not need to if it can outlast them. Joe Inwood, BBC News.
Let's speak to our correspondent, James Waterhouse, and the news, James, that Kharg Island could be within President Trump's sights.
That's right. I mean, in an interview with the Financial Times, Donald Trump said that he wants to take the oil, but some, in his words, stupid people in the US say I shouldn't. I think that's a reflection of his ambition, and we are getting a flurry of briefings from the US side on what is on the table for the US president. We know thousands of US troops are heading there, special forces, paratroopers. These are personnel trained in taking territory and trying to keep hold of it. And on paper, it is likely that the US could use Kharg Island as leverage. It is how Iran exports most of its oil. Because this war for the Americans is increasingly becoming about how the Strait of Hormuz is controlled. But it's one thing to take this island, it's quite another to keep hold of it. When you consider the threats from the Iranians, the fact that the Iranian coastline is extremely mountainous, you would imagine US troops would be pretty exposed to counterfire. I'm sure that's being planned by the Pentagon on how to counter. But the point is, you've got America ploughing more into trying to take control of the Strait of Hormuz, and it's not clear just to what extent this is trying to posture ahead of an eventual negotiation. But you know, if we look at the sort of aerial exchanges at the moment, this is doing little to influence the course of the fighting.
And describe to us, James, what it was like overnight, because there were strikes exchanged from all sides, it seems.
Yes, I mean, it's becoming part of the sort of the daily routine here. You hear air defences through the night. Southern Israel, we understand, has been targeted in the main over the past 12 hours or so, but we're also getting reports from the Israeli military that they again have targeted electricity stations in Iran, mainly around Tehran, where power outages have been reported. And the Israelis really seem to be hardening their position. They've just passed a budget which sees a significant increase in its military spending. There are far-right ministers who talk about this being a defining moment, how Israel can redraw the Middle East, and that is translating into its widening military operations. We're seeing it really push on with its ground offensive in Lebanon, and of course it still seemingly has the munitions to strike Iran from afar.
James, for the moment, thank you very much. James Waterhouse joining us from Jerusalem.